Hello and welcome to 7 Days of Science.
In the headlines this week, a tiger shark
Surprised
surprised
scientists when it...
Regurgitated an echidna.
Whale sharks
have been given ultrasounds
To-
to image their
organs
shark diversity across the last 66 million years.
has been
investigated.
and
Much
more. Plus
Plus
some
other
Exciting, less sharky stories too.
sharky stories.
Yeah.
Smooth as an
It's
out.
Shark Week.
It is. Starting off the news this week, that's right, it's sharks. Shark news for Shark Week. This week in Shark Week, we have news from the sharks. The sharks aren't telling the news, but they're in the news. It's news about sharks. Sharks have gotten into the news. They've gotten into the news and they're not going away. The sharks are in the news. The news is infested with sharks. They're coming in. The sharks are using the news to get to us. They're in now. The sharks are in the room with us. If there's one thing I can say before we're off the air, it's this. Shark.
First up in the shark news is a tiger shark that has vomited an echidna, confusing many. During research observations, scientists from the James Cook University in Australia were catching and tagging various marine animals from the Australian coastline. One such animal was this tiger shark that, upon capture, vomited up this echidna, which is a small hedgehog-like creature native to Australia and a couple of other nearby countries. While the echidna was dead, it was also still whole, leading the scientists to believe that it had been eaten relatively recently, perhaps when it had fallen into the water or maybe even as it was swimming between islands. This strange egg-laying mammal may be a spiky creature, but seems to have done no harm to the tiger shark, who was successfully tagged and released back into the waters. A fascinating bit of unexpected science that probably had the shark thanking the researchers for giving it the opportunity to release the spiny creature from its throat.
In more shark news is a new study published in the Frontiers in Marine Science that has found a new way of more reliably imaging whale sharks by using ultrasound underwater. While they're free swimming, that's the crucial bit because whale sharks have historically been very difficult to image with ultrasound, as it had previously required researchers to restrain the creatures, which is generally not feasible in the wild given how large they are and how distressing and damaging that could potentially be. And yet, ultrasound imaging can be very important when it comes to conservation efforts, as it can help measure the condition of these sharks as well as their reproductive status. In particular, this can help with seeing how healthy their diet is, especially as the oceans of our planet get ever more laden with man-made materials and chemicals that could be harmful to the whale sharks as they filter feed. The method actually employs the use of a submersible scanner that is linked to an iPhone that they put in a safe underwater housing, which is a very fun solution to the problem. Of course, the wider technique is more than just this, and this is fantastic news for any marine biologist who wants to use this new hodgepodge technology underwater.
Also in the recent-ish shark-ish news, a paper named a new species of prehistoric shark relative that lived more than 320 million years ago. It was discovered along a riverbed in Arkansas and was actually first found in the 1970s. But this recent study involved CT scanning the fossil to digitally reconstruct it and reveal many new details, leading to the realization that this was a new species. It was named Cosmosalachus smellingi, and it was a kind of fish called a Samoroform, a group that also includes the bizarre Stethocanthus and Falcatus. Although these fish are commonly referred to as sharks, in fact, Ben has done that before, they are technically not sharks at all, and they are a different, fully extinct lineage of cartilaginous fish, but they are somewhat related, though their classification is contentious. Anyway, Cosmosalachus preserves the cartilaginous rays that extend from the gill arches, showing some amazing details and adding some much needed anatomical data to our record as samoroform fishes. The researchers hope that future fossil discoveries at this site in Arkansas, Arkansas, will continue to reveal much more about these ancient creatures, and hopefully aid in fully solving their evolutionary relationships.
Another very interesting bit of recent shark news is the publication of a study that's investigated how shark diversity has changed over the past 66 million years, since the end of the Cretaceous period when the non-bird dinosaurs went extinct. Using the fossil record of these fish, which is mostly made up of their preserved hard teeth, the researchers examined the features of more than 9,000 shark teeth representing 537 different species, and looked at the specific parts of these teeth that can tell us a lot about what the sharks were feeding on and how they obtained prey. Very interestingly, the scientists discovered that shark functional diversity was relatively high for most of the last 66 million years, and so they were occupying lots of different ecological roles, with the diversity peaking around 20 million years ago. However, after this peak, the functional diversity of sharks then began to decline, and it's been steadily continuing to decline for the last 10 million years. This means that the current functional diversity of sharks is actually the lowest it's been for the whole of the Cenozoic era, which is especially concerning when you consider that the effects of humans continue to reduce this diversity even more. So unfortunately, the future of shark diversity, and indeed ocean diversity as a whole, may be at risk as they appear to be at a particularly vulnerable point in their evolutionary history.
Also in the less sharky news this week, a fascinating paper has been recently published, which has given rise to the idea that humpback whales were happier during the pandemic. Scientists tested levels of cortisol in eastern Australian humpback whales migrating northbound from their Antarctic feeding sites and found that the levels were significantly lower in 2021 compared to 2020. Blubber cortisol levels are often used as an index of physiological stress in marine mammals. Other scientists have reported similar findings over the same time period for the West Antarctic Peninsula humpback whale population, which undertakes migrations on the opposite side of the Antarctic continent. This suggests that a shared stressor had been removed. This time period corresponds to a decline in tourist vessel traffic in the areas under study due to the COVID-19 pandemic. A decrease in vessel traffic would lead to a decrease in noise pollution, but without acoustic and vessel usage data, a link between vessel traffic and the decrease in cortisol cannot be proven. The scientists reflect that if there is a link, it is probably not the sole cause of a reduction in physiological stress for the whales, and that a reduction in the persistent organic pollutants in Antarctic ecosystems may also play a role.
In other, more paleontological news, we also welcome a very exciting new species of early tetrapod that was a giant apex predator of its time. Living around 280 million years ago during the early Permian period, this ancient giant challenges previous hypotheses of early four-limbed vertebrate evolution, that is, the evolution of our own ancestors. It's been named Gaiasia jennyae, and it's known from several almost complete skeletons uncovered in Namibia. Previously, it had been thought that most of these early tetrapods from the late Carboniferous and early Permian were only inhabitants of the extensive coal-producing wetlands that spread across the ancient planet near the equator. However, Gaiasia was found in rocks that represent a high southern latitude region of the supercontinent Gondwana, indicating that the prehistoric fauna here was very different to at the equator. Gaiasia was also somewhat of a relic from an older radiation at the time it was living, and yet it was much larger than any of its relatives at around 2.5 metres or 8.2 feet long. This large size and the anatomy of its head, which was quite flat and also filled with some fearsome looking sharp fangs, suggests that Gaiasia was the apex predator of its southern habitat and was a suction feeder. It's a very interesting and important new discovery, showing just how much there is still to learn about the early evolution of tetrapods.
Also in the news this week is the naming of a new species of bizarre prehistoric reptile called the drepanosaur. These wonderfully strange animals were likely suited to climbing about in trees, though some may have also been burrowers, and sort of look like chameleons but with quite bird-like skulls and also claws on the ends of their tails. This new species is only known from a partial claw from the hand that was uncovered in Triassic-aged rocks in New Mexico, dating to approximately 215 million years ago. In reference to it only being known from a claw, the species has been named Unguinychus onyx, coming from the Latin unguis, meaning claw, the Greek nychus, also meaning claw, and onyx, another Greek word that again means claw. So it's the clawed claw. Brilliant.
That is great.
The site in New Mexico Unguinychus comes from preserves many fossils of isolated drepanosaur bones, including other claws that seem to suggest another new species of these reptiles was present here too. Unguinychus itself may have actually been a burrower based on the anatomy of the claw, whereas the other unnamed species was probably a tree climber. The study also describes other fossils from the site and provides much new data on these wonderful, strange Triassic creatures.
We just wanted to give a very quick mention to the maiden launch of ESA's Ariane 6 launch system. The Ariane 6 rocket will replace ESA's Ariane 5, which has been taking satellites to orbit since the end of the last century. The Ariane rockets used to be the most popular launch system in the world, but has since fallen prey to the much cheaper launches that SpaceX's Falcon 9 rockets are able to achieve thanks to their reusability. Naturally, there have been lots of comparisons made between Ariane 6 and Falcon 9, and there are many who have expressed their concern that this disposable rocket will not be able to compete in this new reusable age. ESA are insistent that there is still a niche open for Ariane 6 as a launch system, and they have a whole host of contracts that will, both metaphorically and literally, take the rocket off the ground. This maiden flight wasn't without its issues. The upper stage experienced an anomaly that necessitated the onboard computers to engage a shutdown of the systems, and it was unable to complete its full flight. However, lots of very important data was gathered, and it is still being praised as a success.
And finally for the news this week, a study published in the journal Nature has redated cave art in Indonesia, finding that the oldest art illustrating a narrative is actually over 51,000 years old. The Indonesian island of Sulawesi was previously reported to have some of the oldest known rock art in the world, with uranium series analysis of calcite deposits that overlay the rock art being used to establish ages of around 43,900 years old. However, this new study has applied a new approach and dated the rock art found in limestone caves on the island. They used laser ablation uranium series imaging, which gives a better spatial accuracy, and they discovered that one of the hunting scenes depicted in the cave art is actually over 4,000 years older than previously thought. As well as this, they find that a newly described cave art scene has a minimum age of 51,200 years, making this the oldest known surviving example of representational art and visual storytelling on the planet. The art depicts at least 3 human-like figures interacting with a pig, though the researchers are not certain if it depicts a hunt or some other event. This amazing study therefore shows that figurative portrayals of anthropomorphic figures as well as animals have an even deeper history in human art than we had previously realised. An absolutely incredible find.
Thank you so much for watching 7 Days of Shark Science
2024.
I hope you've been enjoying
Mega Man.
Shark Week.
Shark Week! Shark Week! Shark Week! Shark Week!
We still have many more videos to show you. We've got
Pack hunting sharks.
Megalodon.
Tomorrow. Not
Megalodon.
tomorrow.
deep sea sharks,
Also not tomorrow.
also not tomorrow.
Only pack hunting sharks tomorrow.
Tychodus,
Those aren't tomorrow.
no. We also have some more other Megalodon content.
That's not tomorrow either.
It might be, I don't know when I'm gonna upload it.
Tomorrow.
What? No, it's not.
What?
But I hope you've enjoyed
Yes.
today's episode of 7 Days of Shark Science, because it was a special thing. We thought we'd all get together and...
Dick
So
about.
thanks for watching.
Become sharks.
Become sharks. That's true, actually.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I used a naughty word.
Oh, God. Well, anyway, thank you very much for watching. As always, we'll see you on Sunday, and thank you for tuning in to this week's 7 Days of Shark Science. Look at all the sharks we've brought. 1, 2, 3, 4. That hurt. 5, 6.
7.
7,
An 8.
8. And then the one behind the camera as well. That's right, you.
Let's go.